So she left Matt. And I think after Matt heard that Serena was no longer interested in him, he like changed, right? So I've been wanting to make a video about The Bachelor, Matt James, and his iconic season, being the first Black Bachelor on the series The Bachelor, which is owned by ABC. And this franchise, basically the concept is, what would happen if you take one eligible bachelor or bachelorette and introduce them to 30 plus individuals, either men or women, right? And the goal is, you give them like 6 to 8 weeks. They have to choose between the last 2 individuals, and they are basically, we'll see if it leads to an engagement. Is there a proposal? And for some people, it's like, how can you find love that fast? It's like speed dating. And then at the end, you see if you want to get engaged to the person, right? And there are hometown visits. It's like the last 4. You go visit your partner, potential partner's family. You make that into a date. And then there's fantasy suites, which is like the last 3. And then there's the proposal at the end. And most times it doesn't lead to an actual engagement, but like they basically may decide like, let's date. Let's date. Like, we like each other. We went through this. Let's date. Well, this season I watched The Bachelor this season. I wanted to connect with my millennial manager, my white millennial manager. She's awesome, but she's a big fan of The Bachelorette and The Bachelor franchise by ABC. And I was like, okay, I want to watch it. I'm very curious. Because it's Matt James. I don't know who this is. And I think a lot of people were like me. They were like, let's tune in. Like, why not? And I even got my roommate involved. She had Hulu, so I was watching it via Hulu the day after the show would premiere on Mondays. I'd be able to watch it the next day on Tuesday. And, you know, there is a lot of pressure when you're the first of something, and it feels like you have to represent everyone, even though you know that's not possible. And so when Matt started the show in the beginning, and he's like, Chris, can I talk to you at the very beginning, right before the women rolled up in the limo, and was like, you know, I'm Black, but I'm also white. And regardless of what happens, you know, I won't be able to make both sides happy, because if I choose one way, people will be upset. If I choose the other, people will be upset. And a lot of people were like, why did you even have to say that? Or, okay, we already know he's gonna choose a white woman, like from the very beginning. And I was just like, let the show start. Like, let's see what happens. And I remember Brie coming out of the limo, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can instantly tell like there's an attraction there. She ended up being one of the top 3. And then Abigail, she had the ear implants. She got the first impression rose. And then I don't really remember Rachel's entrance. I forgot. And then I remember Michelle coming in towards the end with a new group of girls. That was the first time I guess they did that. They introduced a whole group of new women, like 6, to kind of shake things up. And they had I had a big bully on the show. I don't know if they hired her, Victoria, but she would always be like, I'm the queen. Everyone knows I'm the queen. You know, you can wait. I'm the queen, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, did they do this for ratings? Like, who's in charge? Who's in charge? But Matt won. There's all these eyeballs on him, all these women. And be real, like, how do you think you can develop relationships when there's so many people that you have to kind of get to know and like meet and talk to, and see what chemistry develops faster than others? Like, it's a lot. And I think the producers knew that, but they were like, oh, well, you signed up for this, go for it. I don't know if I ever questioned Matt's ability to commit throughout the series until like the very end, because when it was getting to the end and women were leaving and there was drama and it was getting nipped in the bud and people were going home, and you know, like Serena, one of the girls, Serena C, she didn't really have like many moments with Matt, but somehow she was able to go through. She was like week by week, she was able to not get eliminated, and she made it kind of towards the end further along than I expected, regardless of not having a lot of time with Matt. But when I was getting close to the end, and you could tell, like, okay, he likes Rachel, he likes Brie, he likes Michelle. Like when he sent Katie home, who's going to be one of the new bachelorettes, that was kind of unexpected because like you could see the pain in her eyes, like she wasn't ready for that. Like, so that one kind of hurt. And I'm like, I'm just a viewer, like, but you know, when you think someone likes you and they actually don't and they send you home, it's like, dang. But I think it's always great to be rejected because in some way, it always opens you up for something better. Like when Piper got sent home, that one hurt. Like I think she was like top 5 and Piper got sent home. And then it was Serena P, it was Brie, Rachel, and Michelle. So I think I noticed a change in Matt when after Piper left, and Piper was upset because she kind of was open, she was vulnerable, she told Matt, like, I love you, and Matt just, like, he still rejected her after all of that. Like, he just wasn't feeling anything. But when Piper left, he had the hometown visits, and it was just him and Serena P, Rachel, Brie, and Michelle. Serena P, after getting to see her family and introducing them to Matt, she has this conversation with her sister and she's like, what do you think? And the sister's like, I don't think you're yourself. I don't feel the excitement that one would feel if they met their sister's like suitor, right? Potential engagement, fiance. And she completely took the words of her family and was like, I'm out. So she left Matt. And I think after Matt heard that Serena was no longer interested in him, he like changed, right? Like something like, I felt like he went back to his past and he was unable to really work through that and move forward and realize like there were other great still contenders and candidates, you know, vying for his love. And then once that happened, I think like things kind of just went downhill a little bit, because once his father came on the show and he had that conversation with his father, which other people were like, this is a conversation we probably shouldn't be having on air. Like, not everyone in the whole world needs to be watching this moment. This is something that could have been done off cameras, which I understand. But it was also nice to see a conversation like, Dad, you weren't good. Like, I have trouble being in relationships because of you. Like, all this stuff. I was like, that's actually nice to see. It's refreshing to see, you know? But it's like these stereotypes of like, let's say, Black fathers, you know, not being in their children's lives. Like, did we have to perpetuate that? Did ABC have to perpetuate that? Like, you know, like, because why are we always focused on pain and trauma? Because there's more to the Black experience than just pain and trauma. There's joy, there's love, there's creativity, there's hearts, you know, like, so there was that. And then they had that conversation and it seemed like things were a little better. It seemed like Matt was like, okay, you know, I'm glad I could have that conversation with my dad. I'm still interested in the women that are here, and possibly I'm into getting married. Like, he was not interested in getting or engaged. And then he had the women left, meet his mom and his sister. And he sent Brie home. So Brie didn't get to meet his family, I believe. It was just Michelle and Rachel. Now, when Brie left, I remember that elimination ceremony, because that rose ceremony, they all look stunning. Rachel, Michelle, and Brie. They all look stunning. Brie looked like an A-list movie star. And I remember he picked Michelle first. He picked Michelle first, which I was like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. But I was remembering the dates, the fantasy dates. And he for the fantasy dates, he went out with Michelle first, which it's up to you how you kind of like, if you had to choose, which date would you go? Would you want to be number 1, number 2, or number 3? And then he chose Brie second. And then he had the third date with Rachel. So I remember when Michelle went, they had a great time. They had a great time. It looked like they were deepening their connection. And then Brie went. It was Brie's turn. But before Brie went, the cameras went to Rachel and Brie, how they were having a conversation as Michelle was returning the next day in the morning. And Rachel seemed stressed. And then Brie is off to enjoy her date. And it wasn't like the most well-planned date, I would have to say. I felt like it wasn't executed well. He made her think that they were going to camp in the woods. And he just had a nice spa day with Michelle, basically. And I think they were both in a jacuzzi with like oat milk or something. I don't know. Cow milk. I really don't remember. But like that was a very first night, like a nice first date. The second one wasn't the best. But I'm sure Brie had a great experience with Matt. I'm sure they all did. And then Rachel had her third date. And I felt like her date was like the best in terms of the like dramatics towards the end, like the fireworks. And I noticed throughout this whole show, Matt never once said, I'm into you the way you're into me, like basically, or all the women would be like, I'm falling for you. I can see myself with you. I love you. I want to be with you, yada, yada, yada. And Matt would be like, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. And on this second to last date with Rachel, basically, she says, I see myself falling for you, or yada, yada, yada. And he basically lets her know that he is feeling the same way. Like, I had never heard him talk like this to any of the women until I heard it when he said it to Rachel. And I was like, oh my gosh, what people are saying is true. Like, he's going to end up choosing her. And then Brie is eliminated. Let's just say that. And he has the conversation with his father. They talk about the wounds from his childhood and the relationships and how it didn't work out between his father and his mother. And then the mom and his brother meet Michelle and Rachel. I think his mom and brother were fine with whoever he was going to choose. But the mom put it in his mind that love is not going to carry you all the way. Like, you're going to need more than just love. You know, it's going to take work. And I think that's when more doubt creeped into his mind. And when he saw Michelle, he basically, they went through the day, and I think he, brought her back to her hotel room, and they were chilling for a little bit, and she was trying to, make sure she could secure, the ring at the end of the show, or the engagement, or just gauge his feelings. And she brought out some bags and was like, here are some jerseys, I like the way we're progressing, and it says Mr. and Mrs. James on the back. And you could tell, like, the moment he saw this, he was like, I'm done. Like, he checked out, and he literally told her, like, I can't do this. I'm done. And I was just like, this is so sad. And knowing what we know now from after the final rose ceremony, and she said at the ceremony when she was talking to Emmanuel that she asked for 2 minutes because she just didn't understand what was going on, and he didn't give her the 2 minutes to kind of explain himself in the situation. So it was just really sad. Like, I think a lot of people, when they saw Michelle in that moment, they saw they saw themselves, because I'm sure we all have put ourselves out there and have just been rejected, and it didn't make sense why when things were going so good, right? But then you realize you can't control other people's feelings. You can only control your own. And then that experience really messed him up when he was supposed to hang out with Rachel. They kind of just went straight to the ceremony. Like, there was no follow-up. I remember she didn't have a date because Chris Harrison came to her room and was like, hey, like, Matt wanted me to tell you there's not going to be any date. Like, she didn't know. She had expected a date. She was ready. Rachel was ready to go for her day, and like there was none. And so she was just like, what happened? Like, does he not want to see me? Versus what could have possibly happened that like there's no message, no warning for why nothing's happening today. And then he gathered his thoughts. Matt gathered his thoughts. He talked to Chris, and then he did some ring selection. He was contemplating whether or not he was going to do it. And then literally Michelle went home. Rachel didn't know she was the only one left. He went through with the final setup ceremony, and he told her, hey, I'm not really interested in getting engaged or being married right now, but I would love to be in a relationship with you, like boyfriend, girlfriend. And of course she said yes. Also, this show had a lot of 24-year-olds, and I was shocked. When you watch this show or this season, like, I don't know if you'll feel this way or you felt this way, but I was like, how do these 24-year-olds know that they're ready to just put a ring on it? They, like, the confidence and the maturity level is very high right now. Or do they just want their shot at fame or whatever comes next after being on national television? I don't know. But this show was I did have a lot of fun watching it week by week from January to whenever it ended, like early March, mid-March, I'm not too sure. But I thought the chaos that ensued and the revelations with Rachel's photographs and what transpired, like, it's just like, dang. It's just like, we really got to go through this. We really got to go through this. We really got to explain why this might be problematic or not good. And I mean, when you watch After the Final Rose and you see the awkward conversation between Matt and Rachel, you understand the predicament that Matt is in. Like, if he did choose to be with her while they were filming and rolling, but when the news of this broke right before After the Final Rose filming of this last part, Chris stood up for Rachel when he was talking to Rachel Lindsay, and he put his foot in his mouth, and he basically was out of a job, you know what I mean? And there's gonna be people that are divided on if that was right or wrong, or that Chris Harrison should still have a job, but that made room for Emmanuel Acho to come and be part of the franchise and speak up and help and assist with the conversations that need to be had. But a lot of people think that ABC just kind of, like, that was a very easy choice for ABC to do versus actually addressing institutional changes that need to be had within the franchise. Because a lot of people could say, like, it's been 20 plus years and we're just getting a first Black Bachelor? Really, ABC? So it's like, who are the people that are making the decisions? Who are the people in casting? Who are the people that are producing? Who are the people that are directing? Who are the people that are choosing the locations? Like, I think these are all great questions. And I think Matt's season was the most diverse season in terms of just, like, the selection, the women that we saw, very, very POC friendly. And what I was trying to say is, like, Matt was in a huge bind. I mean, it's a very easy decision depending on where you stand or what you believe in. But, like, if he were to be with Rachel after everything was said and done, which a lot of people thought, like, if you really love her, you'll be with her through everything, right? But, like, he would have been ridiculed. Also, there's a point where Emmanuel has a really great quote, and he's like, history is meant to be, like, remembered, but it's not always meant to be celebrated. I was like, that's powerful. He said something along those lines to Rachel. And he also asked Rachel, I think when he was talking to her solo before Matt came on stage and he had the opportunity to talk to both of them together, he asked her, like, so basically, what are you doing right now? Like, what is the work that you are doing to kind of learn from this experience and do better? And her response was, well, I could tell you that I'm reading all these books and that you know, watching these movies and, you know, basically volunteering. Like, that's an example. Like, she said, like, these are things I could tell you that I'm doing, but basically I'm not. But I'm not gonna tell you that I'm doing it because I'm not. And it was like a scratch your head moment. Like, are you admitting that you're not doing anything? You're just kind of gonna ride this out and see what happens, and hopefully, you know, bounce back with a PR agent and a whole team behind you and like book some deals. Like, it was very confusing, but not confusing, because, you know, what do we really expect? What did we really expect from Rachel? You know, especially when she admitted that she didn't really think that anything was wrong because she didn't know. But obviously, because Matt was hurt, she saw that she hurt him and like something was wrong, like because she didn't intend to hurt him in this way, and that she had to, I guess, do better, right? She had to learn from this. But it was just like, you're not doing anything to learn from this. In that moment when she said that, I'm sure all of us, anyone watching, anyone posting about what they were saying, were like, what? So you're not doing anything. And something that was interesting when he was with her and he was saying things like, you know, that emotional work is not mine to, like, it's not my responsibility, it's her responsibility. And how, you know, she doesn't understand. Like, when I saw those photos, I was hurt. It just showed that she wouldn't understand you know, what it means to be Black in America. And I'm like, she probably doesn't really have a lot of Black friends, most likely. Like, you had a choice between a Black woman who's also mixed like you, or this white woman who, you know, is acting like she did nothing wrong because she didn't know, right? And those photos were in 2018. She was in college in 2018. So it's just like, dang, it wouldn't have been easy either way for Matt. So will they get together? Who knows? But it's just like, that predicament was so interesting because it's like, of course, the one person he chose that he wanted to be with is the one that he cannot be with. Classic Romeo and Juliet, right? But I think Michelle, honestly, she avoided someone who was not committed, someone who was not serious about her, someone who really didn't want to get to a point where she was trying to go and be married and thriving in that way. So I think when they have revealed that she's going to be the new Bachelorette, in addition to Katie, it was great for both of them. I believe Katie will have her season first, and then Michelle will have her season later. So Katie will be in the summer, Michelle will be in fall, something like that. But like, I think that selection was great for both of them. I really would have loved to see Brie included too, but I'm sure she'll be fine. It seems like all the women that were involved are doing great and they're thriving online, and, you know, they're making the most they can out of their newfound, you know, 15 minutes of fame. You know, people support people they like. So yeah, that was just my take. I feel like I had never really watched the Bachelor / Bachelorette franchise. And honestly, the last time I saw really many episodes or found myself being consistent while watching was Rachel Lindsay's season. Rachel Lindsay's season was the last time I really tried to keep up and watch. And then I stopped. And then I just watched Matt's. And I'm not too sure if I'll watch more, but I would love to see who Katie and Michelle end up with. So I can see why a lot of people like the show. It's just like easy television. There's something about wanting to see who someone ends up with that's really interesting, and seeing if like your pick between chemistry, like does this, I think this person has good chemistry with this person, I think I want to see them together. Like there's something about that. We just love seeing who people get matched with. So I think this is a show, a series that honestly could continue to go on for a long time. Like there's magic here, but I think it's all about evolving just as people do and society does. How do you continue to evolve and get better so that you're not thinking or acting in archaic ways? You know, you want to be revolutionary in your approach and in your method. So I think ABC has a lot of work to do. I think the people that are casted have a lot of work to do. But at the end of the day, like we have to remember, this was based on love. This was based on finding love and helping two people find something special, right? But things change. But yeah, what do you think about the series, the franchise? What do you think about Matt's season? Let me know your thoughts and comments. Leave some down below for me to read. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. I had a lot of fun. I wonder what I will talk about next. Okay, bye. Good night.